Moving on to page 2 of the contract, you will notice that there is a space for the property address at the top. Again, make sure that you are filling out everything, filling out an address on every page. There we go. So this is continuation from page 1, and we are continuing our financing contingency onto the following page. Now, if you are doing a VA loan, it is required that the seller pays for a termite inspection. So that's what this box is right here. I usually cap that around $100. Usually it's probably going to be closer to $60 to $70. However, better to overestimate than underestimate there. If you're doing an FHA, conventional, or a cash buyer, or a USDA buyer, then that is $0. Only VA would you fill in a monetary amount right there. Okay. This contingency states that this contract is contingent upon the buyer's ability to get their financing, and if at any point they are unable to obtain their loan, they are able to get out of the contract and retain this $2,000 or whatever dollar earnest money deposit. However, if they lied to us about their ability to get their loan based on fraudulent information given, that's a completely different can of worms right there, and the buyer is stating by signing that by signing this document they have given information that is true and accurate to the best of their ability. So moving on to the earnest money section, you will spell out where the earnest money is being held. We always want to hold it in our brokerage whenever possible. There are a few exceptions to that. For instance, if you're making an offer on a HUD property, they require the earnest money to be held at the closing agent's office, or the title office rather. So 95% of the time I'll say that we're going to hold this in our escrow account here at the office. What this paragraph states is that the earnest money needs to be delivered within 3 calendar days, not business days. So again, take in consideration if they're mailing it or whatever, coming from out of state or whatever. If as a seller, and especially if in a multiple offer situation, verify that this earnest money has been received by the listing agent or by the buying agent within that 3-day window, because if not, as the seller, you have the right to void the contract if this earnest money is not received. Earnest money will be held in escrow until closing. If any party or if there's a termination that is signed, then that termination will spell out who gets the earnest money. If it's due to financing or inspections or appraisal, that will be given back to the buyer. However, if either party defaults and doesn't close, then if the buyer defaults by trying to do something outside of their contract terms, like ask for a release after the inspection period, for instance, the seller could hold or retain that earnest money. Plus, there's chances of legal fees, and it's just a whole big nightmare. So the best practice for earnest money is A, get it within 3 days. B, don't let your buyer do anything outside of the contract terms that they're making right here. And remember that if they do terminate because of a contingency, they get that back. Onto the appraisal contingency. If you are financing, no matter what type of loan you're getting, you are always going to select box A. Okay. If you are a cash buyer and you choose to make it contingent upon an appraisal, you will select box B and complete the timeline in which you are going to have this done. So I would recommend 21 days just because appraisers can be backed up, and you don't want to force your seller into a situation that they can't perform in, and then force a buyer into a situation they can't perform in, and then just have a very upset buyer. So give yourself a little bit of grace here. Don't try and force that faster than you need to. Or if it's cash and you don't want to do an appraisal, you don't have to. Just mark that box right there. Now, if you are financing, in our example we are, and it's contingent upon that appraisal, and the appraisal comes in low, you do have the right to renegotiate the contract, which is all spelled out right in here. Okay, you can either terminate, you can negotiate, or you can your buyer can bring the difference in cash themselves. So if our house appraises at $195, the buyer would then have the right to bring $5,000, terminate the contract, or ask the seller to move the purchase price to $195. This paragraph states that all of the HOA fees, if applicable, and taxes are going to be prorated at closing, so everyone is going to pay their fair share for the year. The home warranty paragraph right below that, starting at line 96, indicates whether or not your buyer wishes to have a home warranty, and if so, who is paying for that. So it is incredibly common to ask for a seller to purchase a home warranty for the buyer. A common company we use charges $555 for a 1-year home warranty. And we are going to make sure that we order that prior to closing on our side because we know the company we're going to use. Now, if it is advertised in the MLS that a home warranty is already in place by the seller, they will typically include which or how much that is. So say they're using another company and their product is $500 and they've already ordered it, so we'll just switch that over to the seller, and that's how you would handle that. Or the buyer can purchase one themselves, or it's new construction and comes with a 1-year home warranty, or they may not choose to ask for a home warranty at all. So just select which option you prefer there. And then we will move on to the next section, which starts our due diligence for the property. So the seller disclosure is required to be filled out. If you listen to the seller disclosure video, you'll see what that all entails and what it means if they fill it out or don't fill it out. It also is a kind of, not kind of, it is a hold harmless for you as the agent, as you've never lived in that property, and it prevents the seller from giving fraudulent information because they're required to disclose everything that they know. So we'll take a pause here before moving on to page 3. That'll be a separate video. And I forgot to mention, on every page of the purchase contract, your buyer is going to initial date and time. If you're doing e-signatures, the date and time will auto fill in for you. So make sure you get those initials on every page.